Thank you very much for coming out to the press conference. My name is Deputy Chief Chris Pitcher. I am the Chief of Detectives for the Los Angeles Police Department, and I will be handling the press conference this morning to announce the Safe LA Task Force. So the Safe LA Task Force was put together and directed by the Chief of Police, Michel Moore, at the beginning of June of 2020. Ultimately as a response to the crimes that occurred during the protest and the demonstrations in the LA area. This task force is comprised of course, the LAPD, the FBI, Beverly Hills Police Department, Santa Monica Police Department, Torrance Police Department, the Los Angeles County DA's office, the Los Angeles County City Attorney's office, the United States Attorney's Office, and of course the LAFD, all working together to investigate the serious crimes that occurred during the protests, specifically in the areas of violent assaults, the looting, and ultimately the arson crimes that you saw depicted on the television. So the Safe LA Task Force, initially when we started this, we identified police officers and civilians who were assaulted during the protests and demonstrations. We identified the police vehicles that were destroyed. We identified and recovered various evidence and videos of criminal activity that occurred throughout these events. We met with the business community and stakeholders and identified additional victims of violent crimes, and we distributed community alerts for information on crimes as we continued the prosecutorial and investigative efforts. So ultimately, the Safe LA Task Force has assumed over 150 assaults on officers and civilians. We had 5 attempt murders of police officers. In 4 of those instances, we have made an arrest and charges were filed against the individual. The other one is outstanding. We had 139 assaults with a deadly weapon on police officers and civilians during that time period, and 14 batteries on a police officer. We had 10 arson crimes of note. The Grove at the LAPD substation was completely destroyed by fire. The Melrose Mac the computer store at 6640 Melrose Avenue was also destroyed by arson, and the Moza To Go Italian restaurant at 6610 Melrose Avenue was also destroyed. We're working that case actively with LAFD and our partners. We have 7 police vehicles that many of you have seen destroyed. We are following up on those with videos, with tips that we are receiving, and ultimately moving forward with those investigations. We have 20 identified looting-related crimes at multiple businesses throughout the city of Los Angeles that we are working active investigations on, and the investigative body that we are using for that is robbery homicide detectives, Captain Jonathan Tippett behind me, and Lieutenant Ben Fernandez is the task force manager. They will both be available for specific questions related to these cases and investigations that are ongoing after the press conference. So today we have established a website to receive the tips, to receive videos and other evidence. It is known as the LAPD/FBI Safe LA Tips webpage. You can access that, of course, www.lapdonline.org/safe LA Tips, or you can call 213-486-6840. You have some video snippets that were put on the poster boards. We are looking for these suspects related to arson, looting, and assaults on police officers and other victims. These are just examples. We hope that these are put out. We have been receiving tips, videos, ring videos. We have been receiving verbal tips and other very useful information that is helping us in our investigations to bring these individuals to justice. And now I want to bring up a great partner of ours, the FBI. Vivette Morgan is going to come up, and she's going to represent the FBI, and she has some brief comments for you.
Good morning. My name is Vivette Morgan, and I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles field office. The FBI is committed to supporting our local law enforcement partners with maintaining public safety in the communities in which we serve. And as partners on the Safe LA Task Force, we are focused on identifying and disrupting individuals that are inciting violence and engaging in criminal activity. As the Deputy Chief pointed out, you can visit the LAPD's website, which will link to the FBI's website, where you can view images of unidentified individuals who are being sought for questioning for their suspected involvement with various criminal activity. In addition, you may provide large amounts of images and video at these websites. A reward of up to $10,000 is being offered in exchange for information that leads to an arrest in any of the cases being profiled by the Safe LA Task Force. My hope is that concerned citizens will call in and report criminal activity and assist in the identification of individuals being sought for questioning. The FBI respects and supports those who are exercising their First Amendment rights, including the right to peacefully protest. Individuals should not have to have their constitutionally protected rights hijacked by individuals committing criminal activity. The FBI is committed to holding these perpetrators accountable. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I want to acknowledge at this point Chief Deputy of the LAFD, Al Poyer, to my rear and to my left, and also Assistant Chief of the LAFD, Robert Nelson, who is representing the department and particularly the arson investigation unit. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up for questions right now. The arrests we've had in excess of 5 at this point. Yes, and we started on June 2nd. A combination of both. It'd be the United States Attorney's Office on the federal side. The LA County DA is the one that filed the felony counts against the individual who was arrested for attempt murder on 4 sets of police officers and some civilians. And the DA, or the city attorney rather, is involved. They will handle the misdemeanors and the felony wobblers.
Do you have an idea of who you're already after? I mean, do you have a number of individuals you're already looking at, or are there some out there that you don't really know about?
Both. We have individuals that we do know that are identified. We are continuing the investigations on them, and we have many that we do not know who they are at this point in time in the investigation, and are seeking the public's help through this tip line and ultimately the website.
There's been talk of other agencies in the nation that some of these acts would be charged as acts of terror. Is that a pathway that this task force might take?
We have no indication to move down that road at this point in time with our investigations, no.
Any estimation of monetary damage, including?
We do not have that yet, no.
When you say 139 assaults on officers with a deadly weapon, what are you including in that category? Is a bottle of water a deadly weapon? Is a stick a deadly weapon?
Chunks of concrete, pieces of rebar, full bottles of bleach, a variety of different weapons, and it didn't include just the officers, but rather also civilians are included in that number.
Can you talk about the process and the challenges in finding a lot of these individuals who have on face coverings? Walk us through that.
I'm going to bring up the task force manager, Lieutenant Ben Fernandez, to address that specific question.
Spell your name, please, and title.
Thank you, Chief. Lieutenant Ben, B-E-N, Fernandez, F-E-R-N-A-N-D-E-S. I'm a lieutenant for LAPD Robbery Homicide Division, and I'm the Safe LA Task Force Manager. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Can you talk about the process, the challenges you guys are facing right now, finding individuals, in some cases, who have face coverings on and hookups?
You know, that's a great question. As you can see in some of the pictures, face coverings are causing a problem with identification of individuals. However, there are other things that are visible that might make them identifiable, if that makes sense. The clothing, their height, weight, proportions, any scars or marks that are visible, those things could be easily identifiable by someone who knows the individual. That would be really helpful to us to finish our investigations.
You imagine that this is the first of several or a couple rounds of things like this where you're asking for help identifying individuals?
This is the beginning. So this Safe LA Tips webpage with our partners from the FBI is affording us the opportunity to start the process. We've been in triage mode for the past month, trying to find out who are victims of a crime, what businesses, what officers, what civilians. Now we're getting to the point where we've triaged most of that, and we're pushing forward with identification and holding the folks accountable. And that's why we're asking the public's help to identify these individuals. You're asking about the attempt murder on the police officers? I'm not going to get too much into specifics on that, but that was an individual. Individual named Gabriel Estrada. He's 28 years old. He was arrested a few days later, and this was early in the events. It was after May 29th. He fired upon twice LAPD officers. So a set of two and then another set of two. He was found and arrested downtown during one of the demonstrations and taken into custody without any further incident. I can't get into the specifics of that. All the officers are doing well and back at work.
Mr. Estrada is the suspect in 4 of the 5 mentioned attempted murders.
One case, 4 victim officers.
Will there be any rewards offered in the future for the disappear or any?
So this is the beginning. Through our FBI partnership, if these individuals are identified and they are arrested, then there is a possibility for reward paid by the FBI.
Is there any indication that these acts of violence or looting or robbery, what have you, were they premeditated, calculated, spontaneous? Do you have any idea?
I would say that if we're not listing them, if we're listing them here, then we have some sort of belief that it is a calculated and intentional act and a crime, rather than a mistake. We're not looking for mistakes. We're looking for actual crimes.
Any last questions? Last question?
Yeah, Ms. Moore, can you speak to the types of laws that may bring instances like this into the federal realm?
Well, I won't comment specifically because we're still in the process of conducting our investigation into a lot of these matters, but we are going to hold people accountable for any criminal acts of federal violations. And as I stated earlier, we are offering a reward of up to $10,000 for information that will lead to an arrest for any of the incidents, any of the cases that are a part of the Safe LA Task Force.
Tim, can you give us an idea then of what some of those federal charges would look like?
They will be anything from, as what was all already stipulated, it could be arsons, it could be violent assaults, it could be anything from property damages. There's a whole host of federal violations that we will bring to bear if it is appropriate during the course of the investigation.
What takes it from a county crime to a federal crime?
Again, without getting specifically into a case, it could be anything from interstate activity, it could be cross-jurisdictional. There's a host of incidences where we want to bring our federal powers to bear to assist our local partners.
Is there any indication that any of these individuals are part of a criminal enterprise?
The investigations are still unfolding. If we find that to be the case, we will follow wherever the evidence leads us. But at this time, we don't have that specific information at this time. Thank you.
Do you have a new total count for the number of officers who are injured? I know it was a working number for a while, but you've now done that triage, as the captain mentioned. Do you have a new number?
We have the 158 total assaults on officers, consisting of attempt murders, ADWs, and batteries.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. We have a Spanish speaker here. Detective Freddie Royal will be glad to help out the Spanish speaking next.
I want to thank everyone for coming out today and ultimately assisting us with the investigation by publicizing the event and ultimately soliciting the input of the community. I want to thank my federal, state, and local partners as we work together to make this a safer community, and please be safe and well yourselves. Thank you.
We got a news release for you.
Phone number 213-486-6840.